Hey guys, this is Ash and you're watching WriterGAsh. So today I wanted to talk about Aerofire, which is the third book in the Throne of Glass series, but technically, considering that Assassin's Blade exists, I look at it as more like the fourth. And today I'm going to be doing a book talk on this book. So first, look at the beautiful nerdy ink cover with the character we meet in this book, Rowan Whitethorn, and Goldrin, which for the first time we see in the series. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video. So before we go into the spoilers, I want to do a quick overview of Aerofire, but warning, it's got spoilers for everything before it. So in Aerofire, Selena has come to Wendlin because Kale convinces the king to send her away. And in Wendlin, she comes to meet Prince Rowan, who has been asked by Maeve to train her. And we see how that goes. And in Otterlin, Kale and Dorian are now trapped with the king. Kale knows about Selena, Dorian doesn't, and Kale also knows Dorian has magic, and Dorian's dealing with having magic. And also in this book, we meet Aedion Ashriver, who is Aelin's cousin, and we see how things go there. But from here on out, spoilers galore, so beware. Okay, so how I'm going to be doing this video, I forgot to mention Manan. We meet Manan, a witch. I forgot Manan. Anyway, spoilers ahead. So how I'm going to be doing this video is following each of the storylines separately and just talking about them. So we have Aelin's storyline, which wraps up with Rowan's. We have Manan's storyline, which is separate from everything else that's happening right now. And we have Dorian and Kale's storylines. They're parallel and like really close, but slightly still separate. So let's start off with, if I'm being honest, storyline I was least excited to be reading. I'll preface this by saying I love Manan, and I even love her character in this book. But every time we were having one of the witch chapters, I kept thinking, I want to go back to Selena. I want to go back to Wendlin. And I wanted to see Aedion again. So it was the chapters I was least looking forward to, but still some amazing scenes happened in that. So Manan, Blackbeat, is a witch, and she is the heir to the Blackbeat clan. And basically, the Blackbeaks and the Iron Teeth witches are all called together by the king of Otterlin and told that they were being gifted wyverns so that they could be Otterlin's aerial army. And in doing so, Manan meets, when they are out there picking their wyverns, Manan finds Abraxos. And Abraxos wasn't one of the wyverns that were up for the witches. No, he was a bait. And despite him being a bait, he showed so much courage, so much tenacity. At the end, him and Manan just like were drawn to each other. They were each other's. And I love that. And Abraxos is honestly one of my favorite characters. I should have also said Abraxos is one of the new characters we meet. Anyway, so we see Manan, and in the beginning, she is a very like hard person. She is ruthless, and she is ruthless. That's just who she is, but she doesn't see herself as a person. She often struggles to see herself as she doesn't think she has a heart, and that's because that's how she was raised. That's how all the Iron Teeth witches were raised. And she comes, as like her relationship with Abraxos grows, she comes to realize she does have feelings, and like she grows as a person, and I am excited to see that development continue. Anyway, so there are 3 Iron Teeth witch clans. There's the Blackbeaks, the Yellow Legs, and the Blue Bloods. The Yellow Legs are kind of cruel. Iskra is the heir, And Baba Yellowlegs used to be the matron, who Baba Yellowlegs, if you don't remember, is the witch Selena killed in Crown of Midnight. And we see all of these characters. We learn more about the witches. We learn that they like to drink blood. And these witches have always believed themselves to be ruthless and cruel. And you see that some of them struggle with that. We see Petra, Blue Blood, struggles with that. She forms such a close bond with her wyvern Keely that when she loses Keely during the battle, it breaks her. And I'm excited to see all of their individual growths, to see the 13 grow as well and just continue on the path they are at. I really love the 13, and to see them again and to have them be there for Manon in their own way in this book and more so in the future, because they are a family and you can already tell that. And I am excited to see how that goes. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the Dorian and Sorca storyline. And I'm gonna also talk about Kill Adian as well as we go. So Dorian's whole storyline here is him dealing with him having magic. And that, in doing that, he meets Sorca. Sorca is a healer in the palace, and him and Sorca have a romance. He falls in love with Sorca, and she helps. Dorian has an outburst, and Sorca sees it, and she helps him hide his magic from his father, gives him like iron tonics to help him. And in the end, turns out Sorca has been working with the rebels, and her boss finds one of the letters and gives it to the king, and Sorca is unfortunately beheaded at the end of the book. That was a sad scene, I will admit that. But despite it being a sad scene, I felt no connection to Sorca. Sorca we didn't get her perspective, so I get it. We didn't feel connected. But Dorian was so in love with her, it didn't make sense. They barely knew each other. They barely formed a bond beyond the fact that she was helping him. Their relationship didn't have any development. And they just seemed too crazy for each other in such a short period of time. It just does not make sense. And Dorian, who is trying so hard to like keep a low profile, hide his magic from his father, is trying to protect Sorca as well, because he knows if anyone finds out they're in a relationship, she's screwed basically. And he tries to get her to leave the palace so many times, but she refuses to. And at the end, when he is like, you have to leave, it all comes out. And it is sad. I just never enjoyed the chapters. I have reread parts of this book before, but I never am gravitated towards the Dorian and Sorca chapters. And even while rereading the whole thing, those chapters that I did say I was not looking forward to the witch chapters as much as the others, but no, I think Dorian and Sorca chapters were the ones I was least looking forward to. The only reason they didn't go first is because they're connected to Kill and Adian's chapters. So Adian, we meet him when he comes in to the palace at the king's request, and he was supposed to bring the Bane, but he didn't. But everyone has just assumed he betrayed Terracin and basically works for the king now. But turns out he has just been biding his time, faking everything and working with the rebels, kinda. He's been doing what he can to protect his people while, protecting his own hide. And you can see how loyal he is to Aelin. I'm gonna do a quick series spoiler, to Kingdom of Ash. When this book comes down, I'm done with the spoiler. So, like I said, I love Adian in this book. And I love him in Queen of Shadows. In Empire of Storms, he's still okay. Kind of Like, I like him. But it is Kingdom of Ash that spoils his character. Like, he is just too harsh on Lysandra. And I just really struggled with that. I tried to look at it as a lapse in judgment from him. I think I would have forgiven him if he had groveled more. There was no groveling in his like end arc. Like, he went from treating Lysandra like trash to apologizing for treating her like trash, and then they were back together. Like, what? No, we need you to apologize more. You didn't just like, you were an absolute asshole. Like, you need to grovel more and like make up for what you did. Like, it's not forgivable. That being said, no more spoilers for the rest of the series. But no, Adian is genuinely dedicated to Aelin. And he's working with Ren, who we find out is the person in Crown of Midnight in the study when him and Murtagh were there working with the people Archer Finn had told Selena about. And we get to meet them, and Adian knew them from when he lived in Terrasen, Alsbrook. So Ren is the future Lord of Alsbrook, if I'm saying it right, and they're just trying to make sure there's a court for Selena to come back to. At the end, when it's announced Aelin is alive for sure, and she fought against Adarlan in Vendlin, Murtagh goes up to Terrasen to sound the tell everyone Aelin's alive before they could bury the news, so Terrasen knew their queen was coming. And I really like that. I love how dedicated some in her court are to her, because Aelin really deserves that. Like, she deserves people who will stand by her. And yes, I get it that you can't expect people to blindly trust someone they barely know, especially when they find out she was an assassin who worked for the King of Adarlan. It's hard to swallow that pill. But I like the blind trust that these people show in her. And then as we talk about Adian, we have to talk about Kill. So in the beginning of the book, Kill had found out, like in the last book, Kill had found out Selena was Aelin, and he's really struggled with it. One of my favorite scenes with Kill was when Dorian basically said, you can't pick and choose what parts of her to love. And you can't like pick and choose what part of me you can like accept, because this is who we are. Like, you can't just, pick and choose. And that is just something he tries to come to terms with. And he really struggles with everything. Like, his entire life, he has been taught one thing, and it's all being challenged. It's all being changed. And I agree, it's hard. And I think I was a little harsh on him the first time around. Like, after Crown of Midnight, after Nehemia, I just never forgave him. And I don't dislike him as much now. I just remember really hating him in Queen of Shadows, and I'm trying to remember why. We'll see when I get to Queen of Shadows, but I remember it being related to more Nehemia than anything else that I couldn't just get over, and that for some reason I thought he was resentful of Selena in this book, but he wasn't. He was really just trying to come to terms with some things, and he was more accepting than I thought he would be. Like, he does what he can to protect Dorian. Yes, in this book, he works with Adian to protect Dorian. But also, he does what he can for Selena, because a part of him still loves her. Okay, so finally to the parts of the books I was most excited about. Aelin/Selena. So now it's like completely obvious. Selena is Aelin. We knew that in the last book, but this book really, really drove the message home. So basically, Selena has been sent to Rendlin to kill her uncle and cousin, who no one else knows are her uncle and cousin. But when she's there, she basically is just like given up on life, because she's dealing with Nehemia's death and everything's just coming crashing down for her. And Rowan shows up. Rowan is one of Maeve's blood-sworn soldiers, and he's basically been tasked by Maeve to train her. I will say, I for some reason thought I loved Rowan from the moment I met him, and it turns out no, I didn't. I quite disliked him at the beginning. Like, I, uh, he, you know, it took a while for them to gel together. He was very harsh on her, and us knowing what Selena's been through, it's hard for us to accept him being harsh on her, because he's kind of a dick. Like, he calls her a coward, like Nehemia, which he obviously didn't know what Nehemia called her, and like that hits her. Like, he threatens to whip her, and like another trigger for her. Like, so many triggers. Like, the man just like kept detonating bomb after bomb. But I think their relationship does progress very nicely eventually. And basically, he's training her to control her magic, use her magic. And I do love Selena, Aelin coming into her power, into her magic. And it's just kind of interesting to see their relationship kind of grow. He helps her control her magic, he helps her embrace it and become the fire breathing bitch queen we all know she is. Rowan is also very like reserved. He starts opening up to Aelin. He tells Aelin about his wife, mate, and how he had lost her and how he had sworn himself to Maeve right after her. And you can see he regrets being blood sworn to Maeve. So in the end, when Aelin basically leverages Maeve into freeing him, I was so damn happy because he deserves that freedom. I was a little sad that immediately after leaving that bond, he swore himself to Aelin. Like, I love them working together. I think that could have been done without the blood sworn thing. Also because, like, you know, Aedion wants to be blood sworn. Like, he had always thought he would be blood sworn to Aelin when she was queen. Like, he would be the only one blood sworn to her. Wait, was that a spoiler? It's not a big enough spoiler if it is. That being said, it's just really interesting. So we also see Aelin form bonds with the other people at the keep. She meets all of these half-blood demi-fae, and especially Emery and her form a friendship. Her and Luca form a friendship. Emery is just a really nice, warm person. And at the end, when she's leaving, she tells Emery, like, you'll always have a place in my court, in my household. And like, I want to see him in Terracin. I want to see him in Aelin's court. I am excited to see where that goes. The battle scene where Aelin is finally tapping into her magic, where she finally goes past the limitations and accesses her entire magic, phenomenal. When she beats the Black Princes, phenomenal. When the cadre shows up and she sees them and she's like, salvation's here, like, these people will survive. And then none of them stop for her, and then Rowan is pissy about that later. Anyway, so I just really love Aelin, and that being said, anytime she uses her magic is my favorite scene ever, and that was one of my favorite scenes, like seeing her be badass. And then Rowan comes up and they become Karanam. There was a conversation before in the book where they talk about what Karanam means, what it means to have a Karanam, and how they're your warrior partner, and they're each other's, they complete each other. You can see that even before they become Karanam, they depend on each other. And after, like, Aelin's near burnout, that's when they start becoming closer, and that's when I started liking Rowan. I think my progression in this series is with Aelin's progression. When Aelin starts liking people, I start liking them, and that's me with most books. Like, when the main character, if I find like them, like if I attach myself to them, my opinion of other characters really revolves around the main character's opinions of other characters. Anyway, so that is it for my book talk for Aerofire. I know my book talks are very chaotic and not very like focused on the actual plot. It's just my thoughts on these books. And my thought overall on Aerofire, fantastic book. I love it. I love this series. And I'll see you for the next one.